Arc 6, Chapter 19. The Sage's Whereabouts. At the unforeseen fight against heavy odds, spread out were the winds of the aftermath of the battle at the 6th floor of the Pleiades watchtower, an enshrouding cloud of mist. The man and woman grappling with each other were covered in sweat and mud, and, looking at those two with cold eyes, from every other direction.
What's with that look in your eyes? You're saying that I've done something wrong! I've done nothing wrong! I've done nothing wrong!
Subaru, do not try to fool us so much. There are some good sides to him is what Ram thought, but in the end, Barasu is Barasu.
Those were the comments made by the newly arrived Julius and Ram in regards to Subaru, who had been grabbed by Shaola. Regardless.
We were fortunate to be able to reunite safe and sound. There's also good news that you woke up, but the situation is difficult to comprehend unless you explain it with words.
I would if it was something I could explain! Shit! Let's go!
Nope!
Shaola clinging to Subaru's arms. Julius, whose hand was at the grip of his sword, shrugged his shoulders. He must have perceived that she didn't have any intentions of attacking them. Even Subaru understood that point. But it was true that he was having a hard time trying to get her away.
Don't just watch! Help me get her off! She has goddamn superhuman strength!
Your lips are curving into a smile. Perversu.
They're not! Don't team up with her! Don't take it at face value! Ah! Immediate attack! That hurts! I don't think pulling my hair is gonna be much help!
I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to help you at all.
You're apologizing for that!
The stubborn Shaola did not let go of Subaru's arm, and Emilia, with a somewhat blank expression, continued pulling Subaru's hair. Aside from that, Beatrice, who had gotten trapped between Subaru's and Shaola's jostling, was turning her eyes in all directions, in a state of being crushed, going,
What's this? Even after all that trouble? Seems it's all been changing to a pretty good mood.
What's Oni-san doing after waking up? I don't do well with noises, but I'm glad Oni-san's woke up.
Having slowly come down the stairs, Anastasia and Meili had also joined up with them. With this, all except Rem and Beatrice, who were supposed to be undergoing treatment, had gathered here. It was all well and good that they had been able to reunite, but at this rate they would not be able to calm down and have a proper conversation.
Any way! Everyone! Calm down! Let's talk!
Overworking his throat after just waking up, Subaru managed to get everyone to follow his lead as he tried to take control of the situation. With that being said, within the group sitting in a circle,
Shaola kept latching onto Subaru's right arm.
And on his left was Emilia, sitting Seiza style, at a distance enough to make him shiver. And Beatrice was settled on his lap.
It would be an extremely extravagant battle formation in the eyes of an outsider.
Repulsive.
Did you even see the disaster a minute ago? Does it look to you that I wanted this to happen to my right side? Oh, my bones hurt real bad. At this rate, my arm's gonna become necrotic.
To Ram, who'd spat those words out, Subaru looked at his constricted right arm. Being hugged by a half-naked girl would be a dreamlike experience for many, but in reality, rather than experiencing the softness of her skin, the flesh of his arm was being squeezed,
and the pain of his joints that went to the limits was having a scary effect on his bones and nerves.
Frankly speaking, they could have been torn off.
Well then, before my arm gets torn off from its roots, I'd like to proceed with the conversation. But, before that, first of all, everyone, thank goodness you're all right. Though, it is scary that Beatrice and Rem are unconfirmed.
You're still being doubtful, I suppose. It's all right, in fact. Everyone is all right, I suppose.
It is just as Beatrice-sama says, though your uneasiness and concern are justified. You can properly visit them afterwards. As you would expect, this time we are all scared to death.
Beatrice and Julius nodded at Subaru, who was delighted at their reunion. Julius, once again, put on a grim expression on his face, as if reflecting upon the moment straight after they had been separated back at the sand sea.
Immediately after the space fissured, all of us, except for you, Anastasia, and Miss Rom, fell onto the side beyond the flower garden of the witch beasts, you see. There, after many twists and turns, we arrived at the watchtower and we were able to get shelter.
But Oni-san and the others weren't there. And since we knew they couldn't fight, we were worried.
Julius traced Beatrice's earlier explanation, and Meili agreed as well, pouting. Their uneasiness was only a matter of course as well. Upon falling into the underground area of the sand sea, Subaru and the rest had disappeared from outside, which had made them worry. Though that went for both sides.
One-san really lost her composure. We had a tough time when she snapped at that Sage-san. Such that when thinking back on it now, it sends shivers down my spine.
Hey, Meili, you don't have to say all that.
At Meili's flirtatious glance unsuitable for her age, Emilia objected, her face going red. Her comments were no exaggeration. That could be easily understood by looking at Emilia, who was blushing all the way up to her ears. Though imprudent, he was genuinely happy to see her worried for him.
I see! So Emilia-tan was worried. It looks like Beheko was worried to the point of crying her eyes out as well. I'm such a lucky guy!
Jeez. Subaru joking about that again? Also, Beatrice wouldn't have cried her eyes out. Just around half of that. Yeah, that's right.
If you want to look out for others, then do it properly until the very end, in fact, you natural airhead.
Huh?
With the truth that she'd been driven to tears exposed, Beatrice pouted while Emilia remained clueless. Loosening his cheeks at that pleasant exchange, Subaru looked up at Julius.
If that's so, then you must have gotten a pretty worry too, right? It's unfortunate I couldn't see that expression of yours.
Of course, I was greatly agitated. Regardless of you, because of Anastasia-sama and Miss Rom. It would be regretful to lose the two frail ladies somewhere beyond reach. Without showing you all my form of having a pale face and walking about in worry, currently I am only experiencing relief in my fragile spirit.
Why did you make a conversation about you getting scared so graceful?
Subaru twisted his lips at Julius, who was touching his bangs as if out of habit, with a bittersweet smile on his face. Without him putting up a strong front, and without even showing a weak side of his, it was an absolutely boring result. With that, Meili started laughing lightly at the exchange of the two. When they questioned her by merely gesturing through their eyes, she placed her braided hair against her mouth and...
Oh, it's nothing.
And she deceived them with a smile which seemingly held deep meaning.
Well, from this, I get that everyone who got separated was worried for us. Oh, nobody is missing in the end. So, it's something which we can look back on and smile now.
Only Barasu can be so boldly shameless. Even now, Rom's petite figure and soft heart is about to break apart with uneasiness and fear just by thinking about it.
Is the Niiiiiiiiick who, among all the people I know, the one which seems to have the toughest heart, saying something?
In truth, amongst all of Subaru's acquaintances, Rom was the one who wielded the utmost mental strength. Her remarks seemed to be a silly joke, as if a matter of course, but he ended up intently looking at Ram's face, who was sitting right in front of him. White skin with light crimson eyes, and, of course, well-ordered facial features, along with refreshing beauty. Beautiful facial features like a suspicious berry found in the valley of sweetness and elegance. No matter how he looked at her, she was the same Ram as always.
Put an end to that unpleasant gaze. Looking so intently, what do you want?
Well, I was just thinking that you're really Ram.
This is totally hopeless now, isn't it?
Stop making judgments without any proper subjects! Not that, I mean...
Plied in a flummoxed manner back at Ram, who'd cut off and cast aside Subaru's words. The incident that had occurred just before he had lost his consciousness in the underground area came up in his mind. Ram had protected Subaru with her injured body by standing in front of the centaur. Her delicate figure seen from the back, which had been peppered with wounds, had faced that formidable enemy without any prospects of victory. Back then, he had felt the terror of losing her, seeing her figure that showed no fear of being wounded. And now, both of them had made it back alive safely. He had realized that fact by talking with the usually fearless her.
Sure enough, there's still this sense of distance between us. It did get strangely loathsome and worse, but when I think back on it, that too was... No, that still shouldn't be a good memory to reflect back on.
I do not understand what you are trying to grumble out. Spit it all out like a man.
I'm glad we're both safe is what I mean. Plus, I'm also glad you protected and saved me at the end there.
That was a waste of time.
How can you say that?!
Even though he had honestly expressed his gratitude, it meant absolutely zilch to her. Following that, Emilia let out a stifled giggle seeing Subaru get miffed like that.
It's okay, Subaru. It's just because Ram's a little embarrassed.
Summer's embarrassed? Wouldn't the heavens and earths switching places be more believable?
Not really. Perhaps it's because you kept hugging Ram until she woke up, so she's kinda embarrassed. Even when separated, it was rough.
Emilia-sama!
Emilia secretly whispered that into his ear, but Ram reacted angrily to her words. She raised her eyes unusually in anger, as if she'd read Emilia's lips or something.
I think it would be better that you do not judge things using your own criteria, because I do not think I want to work for a dunderhead who does not understand people's feelings.
When you say dunderhead, you aren't referring to me, right?
I am not. Emilia-sama, you do properly think about people's feelings. If there is anyone who has got nothing to do with being a dunderhead, it would be you. It would be so ridiculous of me to say anything otherwise.
I see. Wait up. Let me think for a bit.
Emilia began to brood in earnest thought at what Ram had said, whose words had been plastered with great sarcasm. Meanwhile, Ram glared at Subaru with a glint in her eye as sharp as a blade, and then stirred her lips into speech, saying, "Forget this." Subaru reflexively nodded at her threatening attitude. When he had woken up, he remembered that there had been the traces of someone who had been lying on the bed together with him. He had thought for sure it had been Beatrice, but it seemed like, according to what she had said now,
I've forgotten it! I said I've forgotten it!
Good. You are not a dunderhead. Emilia-sama, let us leave it at that.
Has it come to Ram gradually becoming more outspoken about me?
Emilia looked at her with reproach, but Ram turned her aside with a look of feigned ignorance. In any case, Subaru turned his eyes away from Ram, who seemed like she did not wish to touch on the subject anymore, and looked towards the last of his companions, at Anastasia. She sat beside Julius, fiddling with her pompons that adorned her hat as usual. But upon noticing Subaru's gaze, she gave him a graceful smile.
Ah, so you're done talking. Natsuki-kun, I thought you'd forgotten about me.
I hope you can forgive me for my ego in prioritizing my own. I'm glad that you're safe too. Speaking of, the last battle in the underground area, I haven't got a clue about what happened after.
Ugh, are you gonna make me remember those scary thoughts? Where I too was thrown down in the pitch black darkness? Natsuki-kun and Rem-san and Patricia-chan were fighting their damnedest, so the witch beast was ignoring me. I wasn't of any use there.
Negotiations?
With the Sage-san who helped us, you know?
Anastasia pointed at Shaola, who was still nestling her face against Subaru's right arm. When he heard about negotiations with this, Subaru frowned, but Anastasia gave him a wry smile.
No. We're also quite confused, because she wouldn't answer anything till only a few minutes ago. Regardless of me pushing and pulling her, but with you, Natsuki-kun, she's madly in love.
She wouldn't speak to you! This... thing!
It's not this thing. It's Shaula, Master.
Shut up.
Subaru responded dejectedly at Shaola getting miffed, and Anastasia shrugged her shoulders. Certainly, looking only at the situation, she had barely said a single word to Anastasia and the rest. However, she'd been nattering away at Subaru. So, in reality, just about everything of this situation was unexpected.
When someone suddenly nestles over to you with 100 favorability, even if they happen to be a beautiful woman, this one's favorability is 0, so it isn't something worth me getting perplexed over.
Just now? Did you say that I'm a beautiful woman?
Ugh, you sure have sharp ears when it suits you. Hey!
Once again, Subaru tried to push Shaola's head off with his empty left hand. However, the more he struggled to do that, the more Shaola's strength increased, eventually leading Subaru to give in. In the end, the out-of-breath Subaru shook his head, saying, "It can't be helped," with Shaola still clinging to his right arm.
For now, let's put all these trivial matters and talk about what we should be talking about. I don't want us to keep going around and around in circles with a lack of explanation. I want you to tell us about various things.
Sure thing. If it's something Master has to say, then let's hop to it.
Indeed, your collaboration is a great help. So, I wish to ask about this. You are the sage who retired to this Pleiades watchtower. Is my understanding correct?
Whoosh.
Answer him! Didn't you just say you talk?
Contrast to her friendly smile, Shaola turned her face away sharply from Julius's question. Straight after, Subaru got pissed off at her poor attitude. Shaola turned her pouting face towards him.
My. What happened, Master? Master, didn't you hammer it into me not to speak or say anything unnecessary to anyone, no matter what they ask? I'm just loyally abiding by what you told me. I can't believe you're angry. I'm gonna file a case against you.
Your master is absolutely awful!
Yeah, Master's such an awful person. I should demand an apology from him, and for him to deeply reflect on himself.
So, calling people master as you please is just... Huh? Emilia-tan, what's with those eyes?
Emilia had narrowed her round eyes at Subaru and Shaola's strange spiel. Subaru braced himself in case it was another inexplicable outburst. But Emilia continued by saying,
Well, it may not really be that big of a deal, but how can I explain it? It's the way you both talk is quite similar.
Does it look like I'm talking with such a chaffish tone?
That's not what I mean. The expressions you both use is what I meant. You see, you always joke about, even during serious conversations, right? That's the feeling I'm getting.
You think of me like that?
Subaru was horrified by that completely unexpected evaluation of hers. But Emilia paid him no heed. On the contrary.
Surely, now that you mention it, Barasu's typical conversation ability? There's trouble lying in wait ahead then.
But I really like Konisan's way of talking.
No, everyone's got some manner that sits heavy on your stomach, don't you think?
Subaru's mouth gaped wide open as everyone appended their own evaluations on top of each other. However, a little girl furiously lost her temper in Subaru's stead. And that girl was Beatrice.
Really? Don't go saying just whatever you feel like, I suppose. Not only are you acting way too familiar with Subaru, you're also acting far too clingy ever since a while ago, in fact. How hard do you think this is for Betty, despite taking Subaru's hand, I suppose? It's unfair, in fact.
The topic had changed quite a bit midway, but Beatrice had a gleeful disposition to her. However, Shaola turned Beatrice's protests aside, with a look on her face that a beautiful girl should not be making. Beatrice's already lacking amount of patience reached its limit when she saw Shaola's complete lack of concern completely expressed on her face. However, before that, Subaru's karate chop hit Shaola square on her forehead.
That's enough!
Ow! Though it doesn't actually hurt, isn't that abuse? It's abuse. Master used violence against me! I'll be seeing you in court.
Pipe down! You can speak with other people properly from now on, or this talk will go nowhere!
Would that be okay?
Yes, it would! Rather, I recommend it! It's high time you start speaking seriously!
Shaola's face turned to one of complete surprise towards the frowning Subaru's complaints. And then, little by little, her facial expression changed. First surprise, then comprehension, then assent, and finally deep gratitude. Then she said,
Yippee! Yay! I got permission to talk! Now I don't have to play the act of deeply mysterious femme fatale anymore. Hip, hip, hooray!
Now not even a fragment of that factor is left behind!
her face was lit up in a deep smile. If she had a tail, she'd probably be wagging it around in full swing. Though, as a matter of fact, Shaola's ponytail was swinging about in delight as she still held on tightly onto his arm, with her ponytail smacking against his forehead, his cheeks, and God knew what else repeatedly.
So, it's okay to say that you're the sage from the rumors, right?
The racket had died down for a bit, and finally, they truly reached the discourse that they should have undertaken before said racket. Shaula, who had let go of Subaru's right arm, was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the group, now sitting in a circle surrounding her. Incidentally, his right arm had become numb, and he couldn't raise it, nor would it move.
Answer me. You're the sage, right?
The answer to that question is difficult.
Greeted with silence to his question, Subaru had once again repeated the same query. Following that, Shaola replied vaguely, putting on a sour expression as if she'd ate a pickled plum. Subaru frowned on receiving that answer, revealing his bewilderment. However, it was Emilia who raised her hand, in place of him. She spoke out, prefacing her words with,
In which case, setting aside whether you're the sage, the one they say guarded the sand dunes all this time from inside the tower, that would be you, right? That's me, for sure! For 400 years, every single day, forever and ever! Guarding the myths in the sand, and each barren day I've spent would be something that would make both one reciting and one hearing it cry. Poor thing.
Emilia-tan, don't get affected by it. And you as well. Don't go exchanging unnecessary feelings.
The empathetic Emilia's eyes teared over at Shaula, who gave her response as she shook her fist. As he calmed Emilia down, Subaru, based off Shaola's current answer, crossed gazes with Julius. Julius gave a nod at that exchange of looks and took charge of the conversation, speaking out
Would I be right in recognizing you as having borne the burden of working as a sage for 400 years, as is typically well known, Shaola-sama?
You're making me blush. Attaching stuff like Sama? I'm not used to it. So you're gonna address me without using honorifics like normal. Using Shaola-sama?
Then I shall correct myself. Surely the one that is typically known as the sage is you, Shaola.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Even if that's what's typically said, I don't ever leave the tower, so I don't know anything about the rumors from outside. It feels unexpectedly strange, doesn't it? Like I'm being called a sage.
Shaola's facial expression, which had been completely at ease, completely changed to one tinged in thoughtfulness, and the atmosphere did too. Julius also narrowed his eyes, facing the depth of her gaze, which seemed like it was searching for something. Her current remark was not the kind which could be ignored, even by those other than Julius. Because, if Shaola's words were the truth...
If you are not the sage, then it would turn out that the legend of the sage Shaola is completely an incorrect rumor? Or is it saying that there is a Shaola other than you who is considered to be a sage?
The sage Shaula from those rumors is someone I'm not aware of. But, as far as I know, there's no acquaintance of mine named Shaula other than me. I was given the name from Master as well, so Master must have given it to me. But...
Shaola's gaze had fleetingly turned towards Subaru, but Subaru had never named anyone Shaola in the first place. Nothing nor nobody. However, it was a fact that there was a certain ring to the name Shaula. Shaula, too, was the name of a star. It was the star name that formed Scorpius, and its meaning was the stinger. Naturally, his thoughts extended to the true identity of the white rays of light which had been fired from the watchtower. However, when it came to getting that information out of her, he wouldn't mind postponing it until later. Right now, what had to take priority was a different issue.
Since Master seems like he has no clue, Shaula is just my name, of course. Master gave that name to just me. There's no need for any other Shaulas.
I see. You seem to be really fond of that master. Must have been a sinful guy, huh?
Quit looking at me when saying that. Those are false accusations. Innocence presumed.
Guilty as proven. That is what Rom thinks.
Don't you take pride in being a lawful nation?
Aside the interruption, he could not catch any glimpses of there being a lie in what Shaula was saying. If that was the case, then was she different to the one from the legends? Suddenly, Anastasia started to rummage through her chest pocket, without any consideration for the individuals conversing with each other. Then, lo and behold, she pulled some coins out from her purse for some reason.
Don't tell me. You're suddenly counting your money?
Even though it's my hobby, and feeling my change makes me work better when I'm in deep thought, and that ain't my intention. Here you go. You'll get what I mean when you look at the coins of the kingdom properly.
Seeing that, Anastasia tossed the coins on her palm over at the befuddled Subaru. He hurriedly caught them. Which he'd flung his way were 4 coins: a copper coin, a silver coin, a gold coin, and a holy gold coin. There was probably no way that it could be something like a bribe for Shaula, or an alternative of a tip. Making sure to check the coins as she had told him to, Subaru noticed the designs engraved into them. He really had not taken a good look at their money up until now, but...
So, it's common just about everywhere to engrave pictures and designs on money. How strange.
I don't know what's strange about it. You gotta know from where the money comes from. Besides, it's 'cause money always comes with the history of its country. That's why stuff like that's intrinsic to the country's history is engraved on it.
Turned his attention to the engravings on the coins whilst he listened to Anastasia's explanation. And upon looking closely, yes, the coins each had different engraved designs.
Holy gold coins have the divine dragon. Gold coins have the first generation sword saint. Silver coins have the sage. And the copper coins have Lagunica's royal castle on them. Didn't you know?
Emilia is speaking like a super loaded character of what she's saying.
Or more so, it's obvious stuff I'd say. Were you so unaware when shopping that you never looked at the money properly?
Subaru whistled innocently, covering his tracks at Emilia's painful inquiry. And as he did that, he checked, afterwards seeing that the engravings on the money were exactly as she had seemed to explain them. A dragon was engraved on the holy gold coin. A man with a sharp look was engraved on the gold coin. The royal castle was engraved on the copper coin. And finally, engraved on the silver coin was a
Young, handsome Oni-san, I guess. He doesn't bear any of the slightest resemblance to Shaula.
But the guy on this drawing is what appears as Shaula to the world, in fact.
A handsome man with long hair and intrepid features was carved there on the coin. Naturally, even if he were to try and change the angle of it, it seemed unlikely that they'd be mistaken as a half-naked hottie of a woman. Shaula herself was pestering him with a, "Let me see!" So he handed the coin over to her. When he did so, she gazed at the silver coin up close and spoke.
Eh? Rather well made, huh? It looks exactly like Master.
Where are you seeing that? No! If the sage that's engraved there is your master, then what do you mean by me resembling the master inside your memories?
Jeez, what are you talking about? My master is the only master.
So, let me restate myself once again. Where are you seeing that?
He cleared his throat and shouted at the top of his lungs at Shaula, who was comparing him with the design etched upon the silver coin. Even if they differed in hairdo, their expression, and, in the first place, even their race seemed to be different. The thing they matched in was their gender, it seemed. Were he to judge it only by the category of having a good-looking face, then Julius would be much closer to it than Subaru was. However, Shaula looked at him with dissatisfaction, going, at Subaru's opinion.
Looks fairly accurate from what I can see. You have hair, 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a nose and a mouth.
That sort of level? Are you complimenting it like a preschooler's portrait?
I guess that I too still don't think that Subaru and the Sage resemble each other.
Though Shaula had grown sulky, Subaru's verdict, and of course, Emilia's outed it. Their verdicts were reasonable. However, Shaula still didn't look convinced.
It's because I'm not very good at comparing people's faces. Men and women are just about as different, but stuff other than that are about the same. After that, I'd come down to size, wouldn't it?
She looked at Betty right now and came out with that. I suppose, this woman.
It's okay, since Bearco being cute and small is unique. Putting that aside, you have such a sense of telling beauty, and yet you call me, out of all people, your master. You're mistaking me completely for someone else.
Advantage of Shaula's excuse, Subaru shook off some of the dishonor he had accrued so far from the false accusations. It had been a ridiculous suggestion in the first place. Of course, he didn't even need to consider it. Subaru had nothing in common with Shaula, and that was a relief. Or so he thought, but Shaula shook her head at that and said,
Me having found Master wasn't a question about appearance, so there's no issue with that.
Not about appearance, you say? Then how did you find out? By aura?
Smell? Well, no. I mean, I can't think of anyone except Master who'd let out such a dark, pungent smell. Now my nose seems to scrunch up, hang off of them.
Honestly? That's the first time I've had my feelings hurt like that! What? Am I that bad?
When that keyword smell came out, Subaru had readied himself up for just a moment. However, his readiness was shattered in one blow by Shaula's choice of words straight after. Shaula had a mystified look to her set towards Subaru, whose face had turned red at her unexpected evaluation.
Why did you get mad? Is it because I said pungent? It's fine, Master's smell isn't really bad. But it's the type of smell I want to keep smelling and smelling. It's that of unusual cooking variety, not the sort that makes you spew, so it's cool.
Girls don't say spew, and it's cool together! You didn't need to follow it up after that!
Subaru covered his face with his palm, about to break down crying on the spot, feeling rather ashamed.
Oh, I thought I'd just gotten about used to people saying that. But being humiliated like this is far too much. What did I ever do to you?
It's okay, Subaru. I perfectly understand. So, shall we bathe properly afterwards?
Perfectly understand it, my arse!
The anguish dented Subaru had become useless. Beatrice let out a sigh as she looked at Emilia consoling him from the side. And then, she grabbed a hold of Subaru's underarm and leaned her weight on his back.
I understand the reason why you mistook Subaru as a complete stranger, I suppose.
I haven't mistaken him. You sure are impertinent for a little ankle biter, aren't ya?
Sorry, but that little ankle biter is your precious master, in fact. Oops, you mistook him for someone else. So he isn't actually your master or anything, I suppose. Pardon me, in fact.
Silently, sparks from their gazes flew up between Beatrice and Shaula. The subject of their talk had ended up completely scattered all over the place. But even if they tried to get back on track, the people there who would put the conversation back on course were too few. Given the situation, the face of common sense would get the short end of that stick.
Beatrice-sama, let's leave the strife until after we are done. After our important discussion, you'll be free to decide who owns Barasu.
Subaru isn't owned by anyone, I suppose. That is the point, in fact.
Yes, yes.
Ram let herself take in Beatrice's anger whilst her eyes filled with shock. And after she replied, Ram narrowed her eyes and called out to Shaula, who was still looking at Beatrice with a thorny look in her eyes.
In any case, if you could speak to us, then that would be a godsend. Up until now, you could not go along without having a serious conversation with us, but don't you think now would be okay to do so?
Mm-hmm. I have Master's permission. So that would be Yoshi. Saying that, though, even I am not so nice to answer absolutely everything. Or rather, I should say I don't know that much stuff.
Merely that answer makes it clear to me that you being called the Sage is a mistake.
Proudly puffing out her ample chest, Shaula unabashedly declared her ignorance all the more. Ram puffed out her small chest as if she were rivaling Shaula's. She snorted her nose, showing an air of superiority more than anyone else here.
You are Shaula, but not the Sage. Then I wonder, do Sword Saint and Divine Dragon ring a bell?
Sword Saint and Divine Dragon?
Their names are Reed and Volcanica.
Ew!
Shaula stuck out her tongue at Ram's question, her face looking like she chewed something sour. It was easy enough to understand from her response that both those names were familiar. When Ram silently urged that knowledge out of her, Shaula rocked her body from left to right, still sat cross-legged, and said,
I know them. The Stick Swinger Ride and the Cynic Volcanica are old friends of mine. I haven't at all seen them since we parted, but they must be doing great, right?
One of them, Reed, is dead since a long time ago.
Seriously? He's dead? Even though he was a guy who was nigh unkillable? How did he die? Did he eat something strange?
His lifespan. No one can go against the decree of the heavens above.
Oh, lifespan. Ah, I see. That's right. Reed was a human being, wasn't he?
been told about the death of her acquaintance, Shaula had cast her eyes down with a solemn attitude to her. She seemed somewhat sad, having dropped her shoulders, drooping down in dejection all over all the way to her ponytail. Regardless of what she had been saying and behaving up until now, her figure mourning her friend's death was neutrally a sad thing. Whilst he finally regained his footing, Subaru too felt something panging inside his chest when he looked at Shaula's face from the side.
So, Volcanica's doing well?
Because they're a dragon.
Ah, a dragon, huh? That would have been better if Volcanica had died rather than Reed.
Those words seem to be way too much. Hey!
Shown only a mere touch of sadness, Shaula quickly went back to herself. Her face had gone clear as she bitterly spoke out about her other acquaintance. To that, Ram closed one of her eyes in thought and said,
You remember Reed and Volcanica? In that case, you should know your master's name, right?
Subaru and the others all held their breaths on hearing Ram's question. Only the questioned Shaula's face remained blank, replying with an "Obviously?" Ram's question was indeed quite effective at unraveling the mystery of the Sage. The Sage equal Shaula system had collapsed now, so if there was someone who had accomplished the deeds required to be called a Sage other than her, naturally, they would need to meet that individual. Shaula had mistaken Subaru as that individual for some reason, but a name probably was not something which could be falsified. Subaru prayed for a miracle where a sage bearing the name of Natsuki Subaru would not come out of her here. And his prayer would be fulfilled, in a strange way which he could not possibly have imagined.
It's weird that Master's name is on your mind, considering he's right there. And I thought all of you were Master's companions. You don't know it?
I apologize, but your master hit his head on the toilet bowl and forgot about a bunch of stuff.
Is there a meaning behind having restricted its toilets?
Master, you did it again?
Again?
Shaula looking at him sympathetically, Subaru tasted humiliation which he shouldn't have received. However, she hopped up as if she had understood that reply and said,
Then you'll hear it from me! Master's name! That's right. Even that name is in Frame's Great Sage. Certainly being called something like a sage is only befitting of Master!
Get to the point!
You're so impatient! But that too is like Master.
Gave off a gaudy gesture which contained irritation, but she stuck her tongue out with a pouty face at Subaru's demand. And then she placed her finger on her cheek and said with an awfully childish gesture,
Flugel.
Huh?
Master's name is Flugel. The Great Sage Flugel. Shaola's master.
Shaola's whole face lit up into a smile, and she delightfully puffed out her chest the moment she spoke those words. There was no shadow of a doubt that Shaola was putting deep love, gratitude, and pure respect into that, and held reverence and affection towards Flugel. However, Subaru and the others' reactions varied in respect to that name. At any rate, he knew that name.
Isn't that the name of the person who planted the tree?
Saying that, Subaru craned his neck at hearing the name of that historical figure whose fates had crossed only once before.